You make your muscles tight so you can learn how to relax the muscles. Through worry and stress, we create an artificial tightness in our muscles. Just relax. The mind is relaxed and calm. Do not let it rush forward. Be patient. Every moment is the present moment. We learn to have our mind stay in the present moment. Here, there's no thought of the future, no thought of the past. Just a clarity of where you're at, where your body's at. Just relax. Be aware. You do not have to have thought. Let go of thought. Be aware when thoughts arise in the mind, but let them go by. We are clear in this moment. Patient. Relaxed. This moment, as if 10,000 years. Put down the mind that seeks continuation. Rest in the present moment. No thought. Just continuous present moment. You contemplate your method. Do not think of it. If you're observing your breath, just simply observe the breath. In this moment, you're clear. I am taking in a long breath or a short breath. But it is in this moment. Do not have thoughts of self or mental impressions, mental states. They do not belong to you. They're naturally appearing, but they do not belong to you. Let them go. Let your mind relax in this moment, completely aware of everything in this moment. Mind need not think to be. Mind is always present. Always being. It is your true nature. It has no form, yet creates form. Thoughts appear in mind, but we let the thoughts go. Any thoughts appearing are naturally appearing. We let them go. Just as the sun looks down upon the earth, sun sees through the clouds. As the mind settles, the clouds dissipate on their own, so that the brilliant radiance is cast equally upon all parts of the earth. So too the mind sees everything in this way, illuminating the environment, casting off ignorance, hatred, anger, any negative emotions or sensations. They do not make up the mind, but are formed by the mind. If not given any attention, they will dissipate. Be patient. This is your true mind. Keep the body relaxed. Mind relaxed. Simply contemplating your method. There is no thought. I am contemplating my method. The method simply appears in mind itself. Mind looking at mind. If notions of self arise, see through them. They're temporary. Maintain only this original mind, never been born. Mind contemplating the method, suspended in mind. This knowing mind is welcomed by mind, like a weary traveler returning home. Content, sublime. Continuous, need not reach. Be patient. In this present moment, mind is aware. And in this awareness, only your method is contemplated by mind, projected on mind. So simple. Mind returning home. Keep the body relaxed. Keep the mind on the method. Patient. Relaxation of the mind brings patience. Just staying in this present moment continuously. Remember this. When the mind strays, you'll begin to lose this absorption of the mind. Gently return the mind back to this point, the present moment. A mind completely aware of all thoughts passing through, but choosing only the method. Relax the mind, relax the body. In this present moment, the mind is aware. Everything appearing perfectly in its place. The body appearing simply holds upright. Other than that, it has no function in this moment. The mind has no need to engage in thought. The only thought is the method. Disentangle the mind from these thoughts. Only the method remains. Continue to stay in the present moment. Make it sharper and sharper. Keep your mind away from the present moment. There is nothing to do but watch the method. Stop any internal discussions. Let them go. Return to the present moment. Mind is still. Internal discussions or illusions, they take you away from this present moment. Directly contemplate your method. And in this way, you become intimate with mind. Intimate is knowing, even though the method is there, countless of thoughts also arise in mind. But because of this intimacy, we know from where those thoughts come from. We let them go, holding only to the method. This intimacy comes from the total awareness of mind. Meditation is easy if we do not pick and choose. Relax. Remember this moment and feeling, and compare it later on when you're doing your own meditation. One palm. Down. Down. Welcome to you all. I wanted to start off this morning with this taste of Chan, this taste of of being able to have this calmness. This calmness is very special because in everything that you do, you can take this calmness with you. You're totally aware of every moment. Why we talk about walking in Chan, talking in Chan, eating, even sleeping in Chan, working in Chan. Chan is just simply this mind that is settled. It's clear. It has an awareness around it. Via body, speech, and mind, it makes knowing decisions about what to think next, what to say next, and what to do next. It measures what's there. It measures what is the most appropriate response to any arising condition. It is aware that these conditions that arise in mind come from a cause. This is what Shakyamuni Buddha realized when he was sitting under the Bodhi tree, was that there is this connection between everything. And as a result of these connections, there are creations in mind, creations in form, sensations, perceptions, volition, and even the consciousness that we think is us, that is our own nature, but it's an illusion. This is not easy for us to accept, because to accept it, we have to give up the notion of an individual's self. We do not understand that the mind is capable of acting without our opinion. But how many times has your opinion gotten you into trouble? You made the wrong choices based on protecting this body, protecting this body's reputation, or whatever, or just simply wanting to hurt people in some way, not harmonizing. This is something that is continues to give more food for the existence of a self, and causes the suffering in this world, not only of your suffering, but you're causing the suffering to others. This is really pitiable and regrettable that we do that. This is not the way of the Dharma. Before I begin, I want to tell you a little bit about myself, so that you understand from where I come from. I've been practicing for many, many years. I've been a searcher for many years, and I found Master Shen Yang, who imparted to me the answer of what I was looking for in my life, which is wisdom. This wisdom, sometimes we call it a mani pearl, a wish-fulfilling gem. But it's different because when you were young and somebody gave you this wish-fulfilling gem, what would you wish for? Back then, when I was young, $1 million would do pretty good. Now that's not too much money. Would you wish for immortal life, or the most beautiful husband in the world, or wife, or wives? What a waste, right? I remember once in Southern California, there's a very affluent area by the beach, and I saw a licensed bumper sticker, or excuse me, a bumper sticker on a car. It said, "He who dies with the most toys wins." And I went, how regrettable, how incredibly regrettable. And I wanted to put the sticker on his car saying, he who dies with the most toys still dies. We don't see that. We don't understand that. It's not that, that's not the goal of life. That is extremely regrettable. So what would we do with this pearl? What could we do? Would we think of ourselves? Or we use it for a better good? It is the wisdom that helps us understand that. The wisdom comes from knowing how life works, how mind works. This is what's important. When we don't know how mind works, we make many, many mistakes. When we know how mind works, we choose wisdom moment to moment. I talk about the present moment. Wisdom is in this present moment. We choose that. This is what I picked up from my Master Shen Yang. Master Shen Yang conferred upon me Inca, which means that I had seen my nature and I was qualified to be a Dharma teacher. When he did that, I did not see that as some kind of a great prize, only the commitment that my life would be in service to others. And it was a solemn moment when that happened. Likewise, when I became Dharma heir of his, it too was a solemn moment. There was no big ceremony, no fancy things, no flowers, no bells, no nothing. Just a simple certificate scribbled by him saying that I'm a Dharma heir. But because I had already been conferred Inca from him, I knew what was in store for me. And essentially, it was a life of service to others. That is what I'm doing here. And I put that before my own personal interests and economics. To come here to impart to you this precious pearl, wonderful pearl that you can have. This is who I am. This is why I'm here. So forgive me for my own introduction. I think that you should know that so you can have faith. I'm not here to get a check or to eat the food or to ring a bell. I'm here to impart whatever I can to you of this wisdom. And what you're listening to me, I'm actually not talking to you. My wish is that whatever I say, you will impart to others. So I try to say it in a way that you will remember it. Remember it carefully so that you may share it with others. This is Chan. This is our practice, is that we don't just simply come here to put down our problems. The problems, when one has a bit of an experience, sometimes they say you laugh and you cry. You feel like laughing and crying at the same moment because one sees the joy of awakening and crying of our stupidity of never seeing it before that moment and crying for those who are still slumbering. These are very funny emotions because in that moment, they're not associated what we normally think of our self-emotions. So they can freely come. Shifu in his death poem was talking about laughing and crying because this is the way it is for us, but it's not in the same laughing and crying as a sentient being, but as someone that truly wants to help others. My goal here is that if you can get a picture of mine, a little bit of it, a little taste, that you'll remember that. And you'll know that this moment, this retreat is special. I don't want to teach you how to meditate. As I can see, you all have your legs crossed, so 50% of how to teach you to meditate is already done. I want you to awaken. I want to set out the seeds for you to awaken. And those seeds are kind of babying you into the proper meditation, listening to the Dharma so that it can go penetrate through to mind, to generate something inside of you, a memory of your original nature. You have it now. This mind that you're using right now to listen to me is your original nature. You have to remember. Sometimes I'll talk to people and they go, I know I've seen you someplace before. And I go, remember, try to remember. You can remember something, but I can't remember. You can remember. So I'm telling them to put aside their self, to wake up, to see the affinity we've had in another lifetime before this. What I'm trying to do to you now is to awaken you. Awaken what you already have, but you are using it, slumbering through this lifetime. This is what I'm doing here. This is my introduction to you, so that you can see I come here very sincerely to try to help you and those that you'll help. The lectures I provided for you this weekend are lectures that are designed to progress along the way to help you to understand. I've chosen to use the ancient Chan masters of Daoxin and Master Hongren as a point of embarkation to the study of Chan this weekend. I could pick up any of the masters of the sutras to do, but I think that they in particular, as it relates to Chan, will give you a taste of Chan, a flavor of it, and more importantly, the direction on which to investigate mind. In all that I do, I focus on directing the students to investigate mind, to contemplate mind. I can tell you by words, but without your own contemplation and investigation, you could only be a good Chan scholar or a good citizen of samsara, but you will not find a way to awaken. You must take that step to awaken. You listen, let it go to your heart. You will see. When we start. This is the fourth Chan patriarch, Master Daoxin. Master Daoxin was interesting because he represents a change in the way in which the Dharma was presented. And here there was an evolution of asking questions. And this evolution of asking a question of the master and the master responding was very good, because these questions are being fed to the master are the questions of a practitioner of how to practice, or the questions that you have when you ask me. That's why I'm so patient to allow you to ask questions. Sometimes the presenters don't want to, they just want to give you this information, never let you ask questions. But these questions are questions that are very, very important, because these questions, they lead to a proper answer. And so that's important. I remember one of my students telling me they were asking this one monastic the questions that they would ask in my classes, and they thought, well, this monastic, he'll answer the questions. But after they asked a couple of profound questions, and the monastic would say, why are you asking me all of these tough questions like this? You know, why can't you just listen? And they said, well, these questions are the ones that Gilbert answers. And they're like they didn't know what to say, because they weren't used to answering questions. But this process I have of questions and answers, it dates back to Dao Xin. He was the one who introduced these questions of the students to the master, so that the master could respond to them. And so this went on for a while, and then later on, it evolved into these stories, Chan stories of the master's interaction with other people, as evidenced, let's say, by Matsu and by Song, just a couple of hundred years later. But in this time period, here comes the question. But before we get to it, he starts this way. When you're sitting in meditation, watch carefully to know when your consciousness starts to move. Consciousness is always moving and flowing. According to its coming and going, we must all be aware of it. So you have to be aware. This is the first element of a proper meditation, or the first element of being in a state of Chan, is be aware of what the mind is doing. This consciousness, then, if we return it to mind, then it is something that we can be aware of. If not returning it, we turn mind into consciousness, and then we believe that we are the actor in all of this. But the treatises say there is no actor. The Dharma Vibhaga Sutra says there's no agent, no apprehender there. So we have to look at this and say, what does that mean? It means that every moment is a moment that the mind is functioning, but it can function clearly, or it can function with obscurations. And the big obscuration that's there is the idea that there's a self that directs all this stuff. But it isn't really a true self. It is just an impression of what is the self nature of mind. Use the wisdom of the diamond to control and rule it. Since it's just like a plant, there is nothing to know. To know there is nothing to know is the wisdom to know everything. Now that's kind of an all-day sucker line. Let me read it to you again, and then Ian can explain it to you impeccably. To know there is nothing to know is the wisdom to know everything. My dad used to say, I know nothing about nothing. And I was going, oh my God, Dad, why do you say something like that? That sounds so stupid. Until I realized how wise it was to know nothing about nothing. It is so humble and so wise to do that you truly know, because you don't cling to any knowing. It is just the wisdom naturally arising. He says, this is the Dharma gate of the one form of the Bodhisattva. What he's pointing to here is what is called ekayana. Ekayana is a Sanskrit word for just mind. And so sometimes it's referred to as a luminous mind, but it is just saying that everything functions off of mind. And so when we know that, then we reverse engineer, which is what Shakyamuni Buddha did. He reverse engineered all of the stuff that how things came into being. And he came up with what? Anybody know? The first thing he taught, nobody knows. The 12 Nidanas, the laws of dependent origination. He reverse engineered all things that appear, so he could see from where they came from the grasping desires, all the things that bring forth objects and forms and mental states. And so but they all come from mind. Because we've lost that, we have the idea that we need to perfect this body. We can watch the body, perfect the body, but in some way, we have to understand that this body will yield to its samsaric existence and no longer be here. So we have to be careful, very mindful about how our body works, how our mind works, to make the best use of this time. One of the things that Master Shin Yang said that was so obvious about knowing about nothing, but struck me greatly was, he said, you know, you only have a finite of breaths to take. And so he's running you directly into the idea of the mortality of this body. He didn't say anything else other than that, but it strikes you because you realize this one breath, sounds like a Pink Floyd song, one breath closer to death, but it is in this way. And so when you understand this, then you make this next breath count and the breath after it count. You don't, sorry, because the Pink Floyd song coming through my head saying, you don't fritter and waste the dull day, But I guess he was onto something when he was writing a song. But it's in this way that we don't waste this day. And the dull day is not knowing what you're doing, whether you're having fun or whether you're at work or whatever. We don't do those types of things. We don't try to define our life by all the simple pleasures or the complicated pleasures, or go after something that you really thought you wanted, but it turned out that you didn't want it. Because once you got it, you still maintain the mind of grasping, and so now you start thinking of something else. So his first question here was, what kind of a person is a Chan master? Dao Shin said, someone who is not disturbed either by chaos or serenity is a person with the know-how of good Chan practice. There are people who begin to practice, and when they practice, all they do is seek serenity. They don't want to mix with the hoi polloi, all the people with the problems. That's just an arcane word saying that common people or lower people. They think that they're so high up now they don't have to mix with them because it's too much noise. Or that they don't. On the other one was the chaos of the world. When we're here, there's this chaos. One of the best descriptions of a bodhisattva, a bodhisattva is an enlightened being that dedicates their life and rededicates it, coming back again and again to the samsaric world, to for the sake of delivering sentient beings. In terms of it, the description was that there's one foot that's in samsara, and the other one is in mind, and they straddle both worlds. So they understand the function is to come back, but they even though they're in a world of chaos, they use mind to keep them clear and on the function of why they're here. We as bodhisattvas and as Buddhas, we can do that. We can be in the midst of chaos, but we use our mind as the proper rudder as to how to navigate through this world, through body, speech, and mind. We can do that. Without that, we are just like a rudderless boat, just bumping into this or bumping into that, or like those amusement park rides of bumper cars where they just keep bumping into different people. Randomly appears to be, but it is all connected. If you bump me, I'm going to go looking for you to bump you back. And that's what life is a bumper car ride. So you go home and they say, what did Gilbert teach? Life's a bumper car ride. So in any case, it is in this way. You hit me, I hit you. So sad. When one always dwells in tranquility, the mind perishes. But if you are always in a state of discernment, then the mind scatters chaotically. It pretty much was what I was saying. The Lotus Sutra says the Buddha himself dwells in the great vehicle. The power of meditation and of wisdom gives remarkable splendor to the dharmas which he has acquired. These he uses to save all beings. So this is really a function, what we call Mahayana. Maha being very high and Yana being a vehicle. So this is the highest vehicle, is to see this place like a burning building, that we want to get people out. It's not just that simply that we run out of the building and we go, wow, that was close. I almost burned up. But you look back and you go, wow, there's still people in there. There's dogs, there's birds, there's whatever's there that needs to be pulled out. And you go and you do that. You don't worry about what's going to happen to you. There is one bodhisattva, earth store bodhisattva, the Chinese will know him as Disan Busa, that goes to hell to deliver the hell dwellers. No, it's a hell of a job because you're in hell all the time. But the circumstances of hell do not define that bodhisattva, or the ropes don't burn or freeze or whatever. It is just simply the function to deliver. And so that's why they say that we, even though we're in the world of chaos, we're not lost in the chaos, whatever is there. We are clear about it. And then the question is, how can we be enlightened to the nature of things and our mind attain lucid purity? So they're saying, how do we practice essentially? Daoshin said, neither by trying to meditate on the Buddha, nor trying to grab hold of the mind, nor be seeing the mind, nor analyzing the mind, nor reflection, nor any discernment, nor by dispersing confusion, but through identification with the natural rhythm of things. I love this. I absolutely love this, because what is Daoshin saying that you should not do? There's a theme to all of what he said. Anybody know? Of course you do. You just don't want to say it. Duality. When we have a duality, if we're seeking the Buddha, we already have the Buddha mind. Why are we seeking the Buddha when we have the Buddha mind? We just have to clarify that. But if we seek the Buddha mind outside of ourselves, then it is not good. We can't practice properly. Or analyzing the mind, even though we don't engage in cogitation about the mind, thinking about the mind, we contemplate mind. Where do we contemplate mind? In the present moment, in our awareness. And when we have that, everything works perfectly. But what he's saying is that we do it through identification with the natural rhythm of things. What would be another way of saying the natural rhythm of things? Anybody know? There's bonus points. You guys haven't even got any points yet. What is the natural rhythm of things? What is the Sanskrit word for that? Nobody knows. Thus it comes to this. Thusness. Thusness. That's the way it is. So by identification with the natural rhythm of things, there's no someone looking at something, it is just thus. So we say the Tathagata. The Tathagata is just this thusness. And so when we see things in this way, it is just that way. It's thus. We don't have to take it any further than that. It is the natural rhythm of things. When we see how did this happen, and there's no heavy people in there except for me, I think. But anyway, there was one comedian that was saying, this lady she was very, very heavy. And she said, I don't know how I got so fat. And she said, of course you do. You should know. You were there. You were putting in more than was coming out the other side. That's how you did it. Thus, it is that way, the natural thusness of things. If somebody is very skinny, it's because they're taking in less and less food. But there's a thusness there. And if your parents were heavy, then you have a chance of being heavy, or likewise, there are all sorts of different things. But we see the clarity of everything is created by the mind. And we understand that. This is pratika samapada, causes and conditions never fail. So we see the thusness of everything. If you're in the present moment and somebody says something to you, you measure your words and your responses in accordance with what should be there. And so as you measure it, you're looking at the thusness. If I do this, this will produce this. And you go, or I can take option B. If I do this, then this will happen. And so these choices are initially made an array of different choices that you can make through speech and body. Later on, not even that appears. It's instantaneous. If the mind is settled, it simply just delivers what needs to be there in that moment. That's the natural rhythm of things. It's very important about that. Finally, abiding in one soul purity, the mind spontaneously becomes lucid and pure. So this is important because when we say spontaneously, it does it by the natural rhythm of things, is that if you put down all distractions, all attainments, all desires, all vexations, spontaneously, the mind will become clear. This is something then later comes up with the sixth patriarch, where he talks about subitism, this sudden enlightenment. And the sudden enlightenment is not there where somebody's walking down the street and all of a sudden they become enlightened just because they are walking down the street, but there's some cause or condition that enables them at that moment to see things just as they are. It's spontaneous, but it's there because of the practice. on how they practice, whether in that lifetime or the previous lifetime or whatever, but it's there, and it appears. Some people can see clearly that the mind is lucid like a bright mirror. Some need a year to practice, and then it becomes lucid and pure. Others need 3 or 5 years, and then the mind is lucid and clear. Or some can attain enlightenment by being taught by someone else. The Nirvana Sutra says the nature of the mind of beings is like a pearl, which falls into the water. The water is muddy, so the pearl becomes hidden. When the water is pure, the pearl is revealed. This is what we are talking about before, this wish-fulfilling gem, sometimes referred to as the Sintamani gem or pearl, or just Mani pearl. And this is our original nature. When we come in contact with our original nature, then everything becomes clear. It becomes natural of how we respond to people and what we do. So it says, the moment we're going to begin practice, how should we contemplate? Now, contemplation is not cogitation, it's not thinking. Contemplation is directly looking at something and allowing the mind to absorb it, and trusting that the mind can see whatever is there and see through it. And again, here his response was, we must identify with the natural rhythm of things, which is what I just said. The natural rhythm of things is just be in accord with mind itself. And this is contemplation. And then he said, should we face toward the west or not? Because before there was a strong belief, and this is with the time period with the Abhidharma and the Western Pure Land was also appearing in China. And so they're saying, you should face the West so that you are, you practice similar to what the Muslims say, that you have to face where Mecca is when you sit to practice, and so people would go, okay, West, I don't know where West is here. Where's West? You guys live in Chicago, you must know where West is. Which direction? That way.
You're facing west.
I'm facing west. You see, you guys all have to turn around now. Actually, I was totally reversed. I thought west was behind me. But in any case, that was how people would do that. So do you think that Dao Shen would say, oh yeah, you guys have to face west when you practice? Let's see what he says. He says, if we know our original mind neither is born nor dies, but is ultimately pure and identical with the pure Buddha land, then it's not necessary to face toward the west. The Huayan Jing, that's a Vatamsaka Sutra, Flower Adornment Sutra. I have to do it in different names. Don't ask me in Japanese, though. Unlimited kalpas of time are contained in a single moment. Unlimited kalpas of time are contained in a single moment. Why is that? Remember, we talked about that yesterday. Because in mind is different than its relativity here, with in particular to one event. And then we start counting out or the cycles of the moons as we did. Hopefully you figured out how many moons old you are, but that's how time is kept here. But in fact, in mind, it's different. I'll give you an example, very common example. How many of you have had a dream, you were in a very involved dream, And then in that very moment, your alarm clock rang, raise your hand. Pretty much everybody. So the thing is that the dreams were pretty extensive. How could they do that? With your alarm clock going off, but you had this very extensive dream. What time frame was that dream operating in? It wasn't operating in this samsaric world. It was operating in the dream samsaric world, which evidently passed a lot faster than this samsaric world. Otherwise, you would not be able to wake up. You would have to be there being chased by whatever it is that was chasing you, you know, for so long. But you had the dream to come to the point to scare you enough to wake you up, or whatever it was that was happening. But that happened in a snap of a finger. It could not be that you had that dream for the whole night, unless your mind calculated, okay, he's going to wake up in 8 hours. We've got 8 hours to give him a really nasty dream. And then just like a conductor at the very end, there's a big crescendo and a big clasp of the cymbals, and you wake up, wow. And the dream master says, that was a great dream. You got it right on time. It was 8 hours in the dream. You know, the train pulled into the station, is there. But no, it's in one apparent thought moment. I was talking to Michael about thought moments a while back, and a whole lifetime of a dream passed in that very moment. How could that be? That's why they were saying here that unlimited kalpas of time are contained in a single moment, because mind is in this way. We follow this world, the samsaric world, and we're governed by its rules. I throw this up in the air, it's going to fall because of gravity. But in another place, it would just simply float around. Or if I dreamed it, it would float. Now, I can't make it float here. No. And if I did, you guys would probably say, I'm going to follow you for the rest of my life. No, don't do that, because there's people can do some wild things in this world, but they can only manipulate the idea of reality here. But the thing is that it is to get you to start looking at this, not from the idea of this dream world, but the idea of mind. That's why he's saying it's mind-blowing, literally, when you say unlimited kalpas are contained in a single moment. What does the sutra say? Or the, no, it says to know all the Buddhas of the past, present, and future. Past, present, and future. So it's not saying to know all the Buddhas that are here now. You know, can we line up all the Buddhas that are present right now? But saying of the past and the future to be, then we perceive that all Dharma Dhatu nature, all phenomena is created by the mind. That is contained in the idea of that these countless kalpas are an uncountable amount of time. They are something that when we see it in a single moment, just like the dream that happened in a single moment, only in mind. You were not in that dream world when you did that. You were not really in that dream, were you? Or was that dream real that you were in? If you stopped that dream in that moment that you were in, and you took a poll of all the people that are in the dream, are you dreaming? What do you mean I'm not dreaming? This is real. You see how big that monster is behind me that's chasing me? I got to keep moving. It's real. I can feel its breath on my neck. It's hot. It's real. And you go, but it's a dream. No, it's not a dream. It's real. What about this dream? You're so convinced that this is real. But everything that you see here has been created by the mind. You were here, you remember, you know how you got here. To this very moment, you know what brought you here. You're clear about it. You should be clear about it. It was I don't know, I was like stumbling around. This isn't the class to learn how to make a marijuana bong pipe. That's where I thought I was at. How did I get here? No, you're clear about how you got here. You know what you're doing. So you just stay awake. Even though you're in the dream, you can stay awake. At the end, you can make a decision. Do you stay and come back and start pulling out all the other people that are in this burning dream? Or do you just move on? That's your choice, depending on what you practice. So that's good. So this is how we see this fleeting world. An illusion, a phantasm, a dream. From the very beginning, these Chan masters were clear about what they were teaching. Why don't we teach this? Why don't we teach this? Why do we just teach people to cross their legs and to don't think anything? That's stupid. That doesn't help. If somebody is having a bad dream that you see, what do? You want to wake them up from the bad dream. And if you're having a bad dream, you'd hope somebody would wake you up, right? And so we say, why? It was just a dream. Well, to those who are in the dream, it matters. It really matters. So we don't withhold the profound to people. We present it to them. In due time, they will be able to know what to do with this information. But at least they know. At least they know. Master Huang Ning had a realization when somebody was passing by him and had recited one line of the Diamond Sutra to him. He just overheard it, actually, but it clicked. Not bad, because his past practice enabled him to do that. But we don't know that. But we should have the opportunity to know that this is a dream. Oh, one last part. The Buddha causes beings who have adult capacities to face the West, but does not teach people with keen abilities to do so. So the people who have keen abilities, I would say, if you really want to practice and you don't get this, I would advise you just to face the West, okay? And at least you have that part. But you all, as I see it, have a keen ability. Even though you're facing the East, you have a keen ability to know where mind is. It's just in this moment. If you don't know where your mind is, face West, please. Okay. Bodhisattvas who have profound practice enter the stream of birth and death in order to save sentient beings. Okay, so they're saying bodhisattvas, if once awakened, they have a choice to come back here to help others. So they purposely go into the dream. How can they do that? Well, the dream was created in mind so they can go anywhere they want. Go back into the dream. And yet do not drown in desire. So they don't come back here and then become a fallen angel because they start seeing, start smoking marijuana or whatever it is, and all of a sudden they forget that they were a bodhisattva. That's an arcane reference to my time in the 60s where marijuana was like the ultimate leader to crack cocaine and everything. Now people are kind of changing about that. But in any case, it says, and I'm not advocating marijuana, okay? I have to be so politically correct now. Now, I want you to think about this because this is what he's saying. They don't drown in desire. If you have the view, so this is the view, beings in samsara and I am able to save them, these beings are capable of being saved. So you come back and you have the idea that I'm going to save these sentient beings and they're capable of being saved. Is that the right attitude? How many think it's the right attitude? Raise your hand. One, that's it. The rest of you say hell with them, they're not. Yeah, go ahead.
I suppose it presumes that one thinks that they're the right one to be the savior. And I don't know if that we have the judgment or let's just know that maybe it is.
Well, let's say you're a bodhisattva and you're coming back. So, Michael, you didn't raise your hand. Are you still with us? Why didn't you raise your hand?
Somewhere else.
Huh?
I'm somewhere else.
You want to know, did you raise your hand or not? And why didn't you raise your hand?
Well, it's like watching a television show thinking that you're going to save the characters on the screen. Like they're not real.
So it says, if you have the view that beings are in samsara, I am able to save them, and these beings are capable of being saved. So you're saying that everybody's like on a television program, why should I save them? Then why does the bodhisattva come back?
Function.
To save the illusory sentient beings on the television?
Well, to awaken the mind that there is nothing real there to be saved, and that there's no reason to fruitlessly squander away.
What is awaken?
It's the mind.
You guys trust them? Yes, go ahead.
It's according to Dharma Sutra, there is anything, and the Bodhisattva should bear the mindset that there isn't any beings that can truly be saved. Because the Bodhisattva is the real Bodhisattva is the Bodhisattva that discarded the concept of self, the concept of others, the concept of longevity, and the concept of all beings.
So you're with him.
I am.
All right. You at least got one convert. That's a start. So very interesting, because this is the part that's very perplexing. That bodhisattvas come back to this world to save illusory sentient beings. If we come back to this world to try to say, I'm going to save your carcass and your carcass being like a body. Sometimes the ancients called them red meatballs. So if you look and you see, there's the Buddha there on top of a red meatball, then you'd probably be correctly seeing the things in terms of that. But the sentient being as an individual cannot be saved because it's illusory. But yet that which believes it to be a sentient being that is engaged in the suffering is we're saving because that's mind itself, the very mind that you use now, the mind that's clouded into thinking that this physical property of this body is yours and you have the realm, of this body, rather than seeing it connected with everything else. So it's very interesting because this represented a major change in the thinking in Buddhism of the establishment of bodhisattvas. So this came in the very early Mahayana, where you have, for instance, the 8,000 line sutra. Sometimes they call it Asta, but it's like Astarika, something very long name, or the Awakening of the Faith in Mahayana sutras that come in and begin to change the purpose of what one does with his life. And there we begin to see bodhisattvas coming in and practicing. And it's very interesting where, how many of you have heard, this will tell me where you're at, of that one sutra or treatise called The Awakening of the Faith in Mahayana? Okay, Esther, the name in Chinese?
大圣起信论
So we give you sort of the Chinese if you didn't know what it was. Say it again.
大圣起信论
Okay, so now again, how many have heard of that? Raise your hands. No crocodile hands, put them up high. All right, a few of you. It's very interesting because this document where it says Waking of the Faith in Mahayana, it's not the faith as Mahayana is a faith, but Mahayana, this highest vehicle here, means awakening of faith in the Buddha mind. Mahayana at that time was interpreted to be the Buddha mind or the Buddha vehicle. And so, or sometimes called the greater vehicle. But what it means is the understanding of how mind works. So it all comes back down to that. So here, when we're looking at this, we're seeing that we have to see clearly that everyone is illusory because they belong to the dream. What is sure about whatever's in this dream is it's impermanent. It will not, it does not really exist. It only appears like a shooting star in the sky. And you say, oh, there was, and then it's gone. And I saw it though, but I know it was just there temporarily. But it will come back again and again and again. And what one does then essentially is one takes a ride on the shooting star and tries to get as many people out as possible. So if there were more bodhisattvas on the Titanic, perhaps they could have saved more people. But it is in this way that the bodhisattvas are jumping into a sinking ship. Maybe the parable of the burning house is more acceptable to some people, but it's the same thing. There is no purchase here. There's nothing that we can hold on to in this lifetime. The masters talk about that trying to extend yourself in this way is like being in an ocean and trying to hold on to sea foam. You see the bubbles, you try to hold on to them, but they will not keep you buoyant. So we see the world as it is. This is the thusness of it. We do not come in to save the corporal body, but we come in so that those who are slumbering with Buddha nature are not set on a course of coming back again and going through the whole procedure time and time again, countless lives. And we go like, well, how do we know these countless lives? Who knows? Because as they mentioned, countless kalpas can appear in one moment. It's different. Mind is different than that idea. Okay. And so it says, we'll find out if he was right or not. And he says, and these beings are capable of being saved. Then you are not to be called a bodhisattva. Saving beings is similar to saving the empty sky. How could the sky ever have come and gone? So this is illusory being. So we don't come in to save you, you know, and say, where's your papers? You know, I'm taking you now, you know. It isn't in this way. It is not you, your corporal bodies that are salvaged. It is you, the mind, that's using this body. That is what is to be saved. And again, what is to be saved is just simply awakening to see that this body is not real. Okay. As a whole, bodhisattvas of the first stage at the beginning have realizations that all things are empty. Later on, they obtain the realization that all things are not empty, which is identical to the wisdom of non-discrimination. That's a little too deep for you, so I won't talk about that. The Heart Sutra says, form is identical to emptiness. It is not because form is eliminated and then there is emptiness. Form, the nature of form is emptiness. So that's the Heart Sutra. Now, I'll give you some further food for thought, because originally that part came from the Asta Sutra and another sutra, and it wasn't in that way. They said form is an illusion. They didn't mention emptiness. Came a little bit later on, where the translator Kumarajiva changed the illusion to emptiness to make it a little clearer. But once again, it's just in this way when we see the form, as he was saying, sentient beings, they're just an illusion. So anyway, that should give you some food for thought. Some of this is useful for more advanced people. Some of it is just stuff for people that are beginning, just to put away in your memory locker and access it as you go along. Some of you, even though you're beginners, are able to pick it up right away. It's okay, remember he said, those that practice a year, 3 to 5 years, you should be there. But then gosh, I've been practicing for 7 years. I haven't gotten nothing yet. Then come and see me after class. Yeah.
Everything is mind, so why would there still be individual consciousness lifetimes? I don't get that. It doesn't fit together.
My response to you is classic Chan, but I'll try to calm it down so you don't take offense. You will never understand. You will never understand. I once said that to somebody and they walked out. So I have to be very careful when I say that these days. I learned that when I was very young and teaching it, so that tells you how long ago it was. But in any case, what it means is that if we view those kinds of statements from the idea of samsara, it is not understandable. We have to contemplate and try to break away from the idea of the samsara, because it doesn't make sense in the samsara part. But as you begin to contemplate it, and it will become self-evident being self-evident of the nature of the self, which is the Buddha nature. One contemplating it, and then it will begin to make sense. Because your idea of the consciousness, that consciousness is an illusion. We could call it emptiness, but it's an illusion. It's not really real. But that which is attached to it that is what's called immutable. Immutable meaning that it never changes, which is mind itself.
But isn't that everything?
It connects everything.
Yeah.
It connects everything, but it's not you or your individual sense of identity. when we're able to let that go, then the mind becomes accessible again. It's always been there. We just haven't been able to see it because of the fact that the self is getting in the way, this illusory self.
But aren't we grasping if we say we come here for endless lifetimes? And are you and you are me? And you know, if we are all mind, we are all the future and all the past. So what we see here are just little tentacles coming out of the mind.
Wow, you're like reciting like the Beatles song. I am you and we are me and we're all together. There's no duality. Sorry. You can see where I came from, rock and roll orientation. But when you see that, you know, the Beatles that's why they messed it all up, because they were taking drugs, but they were onto something, and all of a sudden they go, I am the walrus, you know. And they messed it all up at that point. But you know, all of that stuff there, if you're onto something, with that. And that's why I say this stuff. There's no answer that I can give you where you go, oh wow, that was it, you know, and then I punch your ticket. Okay, and you go, okay, you could go. No, it isn't in this way. It is in the way of you contemplating that and sorting it out. Like you got parts of it, say, well, it's connected, and you say, yeah, it's connected, but it's connected in a way where we need to let go of the self, this illusory self, to be able to penetrate how that works. And then when we look at it, what we do is we move ourselves out of the dream to be able to see the dream. And when that happens, you'll find that the samsara realm is infinitesimally small. It's so small in relation to the infinite of the mind. And then you go, you know, you want to go back, you know, but there's people that are suffering. Okay, I'll go back. And then you go back. But you know the difference. Or you come in and you're slumbering for a while, and all of a sudden you wake and you awake, you remember this, you've been here, you've done it. You just have to remember. And you awaken. Oh, now I remember what I was doing here. I'm supposed to awaken other people. That was your prime directive, but you forgot it somewhere along the line. That you're here to awaken people. So this is what you do. Oh, I remember now.
But that sounds like if there would be a soul, and that doesn't make sense to me.
There is no soul, and there is no prime perfect Buddha that lives up in Buddha land. There's so many Buddha lands. I mean, but all that is just in mind. Okay, but the thing is that what we have to do, and what you're thinking about is exactly what you should be thinking about at this point and looking at it, because it's a challenge to your idea of this world being real. Because the hardest thing is to tell a person to wake up from the dream when they believe that they're not in a dream. That's very difficult, because they're clinging to the dream, because that's all they know. And so they go, this is reality, you know, this is wood, you know, I know it, you know, whatever it is. And so they self-prove. But to tell people, aren't you, just move away for a second, think about this and think, this might be a dream. What if it was a dream? And it begins to undercut the idea of that, of the self-existence, independent self-existence. That's not going to happen where you're going to be taken away, you know, to another land or whatever. You're just going to see what happens. And even if I'm wrong about all of this, being compassionate towards people and using wisdom, you can't be that far off. I know where you're at, and it's actually a good place, because all of a sudden you were walking and you were following me, right? And all of a sudden the boards that you're walking on over the water become very unsteady. And you're going, I don't know if I want to walk any further here, because, you know, I'm losing my balance. but that's where you should be. You should be there. You should be feeling a little uncomfortable about that because it's natural. So we follow the natural order of things, and that's part of the whole process. Okay. So keep your questions and ask them again later. Just contemplate them for a little bit. Any other last questions? Yes.
I have a question about the totality of the mind when you have this, the sort of predisposed the concept here is the mind that is all encompassing, includes all the future, present, past, and all the occurrences, potentials. That's like disappeared, we draw it on the board the other day. Logically speaking, when you have it, and the concept of space, it is incapable of perceiving itself because it has no others as a reference point that could reflect this entity. So, but experientially, I'm assuming once you get to the advanced level and you really perceive the mind as it is, you have that sense of you're superseding something. So
Yeah.
How can we reconcile this?
Well, let me do this one last part.
Yeah.
Straight.
But I put them on the right side, you have multiple colors.
Okay. You can have the lights. When you have, let's say, we'll draw that half circle again like this, and let's say this is different matters, different appearances in mind, and you are sitting there, you're viewing them. At any given point in time, you can only hold one of them. If you have a method, if all of a sudden you view something else, the method drops off. And you're only on that. And then you go to this one over here, then this one drops off. So you're thinking linearly, or you might think, oh, this is the donut. Okay, so then you go, oh, I want, a strawberry donut. And you have a picture of a strawberry donut. And I know where I can get it at Dunkin' Donuts. I don't know if you have Dunkin' Donuts here, but there. And then you say, I'm going to drive there right after class and pick one up, right? And I'm going to take it home and I'm going to eat it, Picture of a Pac-Man eating the donut. And then this is linear thinking. This is the thinking of samsara. Okay. You're only capable of doing that. And if for some reason you heard a noise as you were doing it, it would break the stream, and then you'd hear this noise, this, maybe music. I'll put a little note here. What was that? And then this fades out, and you go, like I was saying, I'm going to eat my donut, and then you continue on. But it's linear, so that noise would actually come in here and break up this. But that's why they say that you have to sever the mind that desires continuation. So what happened to your method? It's gone. It's at Dunkin' Donuts if you want to find it. Okay. So this is the mind of an illusory sentient being. It creates like this. It creates, but it's not really creating. Who's really creating this? This is not the person, If this was in the Wizard of Oz, it would be that face that's going, go, go. And it's the little person behind the curtain, which is mine, that is controlling all of this, but making this illusion that there's a person here. Now, if we don't use the mind in this way, because this is only in samsara that things happen in this way, that we have this linear thinking. If in a single moment, countless kalpas can appear, in a single moment, countless mental impressions can appear, but only in mind. And mind is capable of having command of all of those appearances, not linearly, but simultaneously, because it's mind. It created it. How would it not know if in your body, you go and you and your leg fell asleep or your foot fell asleep, and did it have to travel up to the knee and then to the pelvis? What's wrong? The foot fell asleep, tell them to move it. You know, what's wrong? It goes up to your stomach. Oh, there's a problem down below, you know, pass it on until it finally gets up here. But no, just like a body, the Dharma body knows instantly that the foot's asleep. It doesn't have to make these link connections to get there. It knows instantaneously what is happening there. How about the left foot? Oh, he's okay. Because it knows instantaneously about any other complaints. You know, I want a donut. Ah, shut up. So the thing is that it's that way. It knows about all these things, all these cravings, all these manifestations simultaneously. We don't know that because we got like the dumbed down version of the computer program. You know, so our computer works very, very slow. They're working on like a 10D, you know, 4K computer from, you probably don't know what that is. But it's like the first computers that came out and go, wow, it's got 4,000 gigabytes? No, it's 4,000 bits. And that's what we're using is the slow down computer. But mind itself is instantaneous. It's capable of that. I can be talking to you. I know you guys are heads are bobbing and bobbing going, it's time for a break. Your mind is capable of doing that. Just this very mind that you're using right now, it can do that. It just doesn't follow things linearly. When we try to process stuff linearly, it's slow. So if you're trying to process what you're thinking about slow, I mean, it would be like, okay, let's make this shipment on a boat to China. You know, is it there yet? No, it's getting there. You know, it's on a slow boat to China, and you can't process fast enough. But if you let go of it, let the mind process it, boom, in an instant, it's there. That's why Ning was talking about instant enlightenment or sudden enlightenment. You don't have to go through all these mental processes to get there. Or like you were saying, the stairway to heaven of building and building and building and making this perfect person like Confucianism. You don't have to do that. You just have to see in a snap of the fingers, and it's there. Wow, it's there. They call that awakening. Not bad. It's better because you have all the fastest versions and all the updates instantaneously. So not only you get all of the versions of mine from before, you know, but you already get instantly the updates in the future that haven't come out yet. Not bad. It's mine. It can do anything. But we don't know that. So we sit and crave a Dunkin' Donut. Okay, that gives you some food for thought. No question? You doing all right? Okay. All right, we'll take a break. This is a long break we can go to.
So when you stand up, fold your towel, put it on top of your cushion, and we're walking clockwise. So
Hold on, one correction. We stand, then we bow to the Buddha, then we bow to the lecture.
down.
Nice. Take your break. So this retreat is supposed to be a lot of audibles, but it's okay. It worked out pretty good. I got the blood well refreshed, just the guided meditation. So then they'll be back here at 11, and then 12 is
It's lunch.
lunch. So you want to go
And, we want to,
the meal offering. So we finish her up 12,
so,
no, 11:50.
yeah, 11:50, just the meal chance, and then, the five contemplation.
Yeah. Yeah, so what page is that?
7 and 8.
So it's at the very back, so.
Yeah.
All right, so then we do that, and then people do it, and then we can go from there.
All right.
And also then, you can do 25-minute periods,
Okay.
but the other one is just a short break. So you just say, this is a short break. You could do not get up off your cushion. If you need to straighten up or massage your legs, you can, and then return to sitting. Yeah. Those who do not need a break can continue to sit.
Okay, so 25, and then the short break, and then another 25.
Yeah, and if there's people that are still moving after 5 minutes or so, then you start with the wooden fish. But there's no need to do the wooden fish if everybody's usually sitting. Okay, so you just kind of watch over it and see how it works, and then it will be done.
Okay.
All right. So far, so good today.